how to think sharper as a leader. Perhaps you are in a leadership role. Maybe you are seasoned in your role, or maybe you're just starting out and you want to think a bit sharper when you are communicating with others. In this video, I'm going to share with you a few secrets, a few strategies that I have picked up over the past 20 years in senior executive roles to help you be able to start thinking a bit differently in terms of how you respond. Now, you absolutely want to watch this video until the end because what I'm sharing with you will absolutely give you a competitive edge against other individuals, regardless of what role you have in leadership. Whether you are starting out, whether you are a seasoned leader, whether you are a public official, being able to think sharper is a very, very, very important skill for you to be able to have. Now, if you're new to me, welcome. And if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you want to be the person that stands out from everybody else, that does not freeze when you are put on the spot and when the entire room is watching you, you absolutely want to watch this video and some of the other videos that are listed on my playlist here on my channel. If you happen to be at a place where you know you need some support, you're welcome to contact me at executivecommunication.org. I have many ways to support you. Let's talk about this. Now, being able to think sharper as a leader is incredibly important. Let me know in the comments below, how do you feel that you do right now in terms of thinking sharply as a leader? Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I'm going to share with you just a couple of things and we'll break it down into a bit more detail in a few moments. Now, when it comes to thinking more sharper and developing that competitive edge that you will need as a leader, whether you are a business owner, whether you are in an organization or whatever the case may be, there's a couple things to keep in mind. There is the internal aspect of what you have to do to get yourself to thinking sharper. And then there's the external aspect of what you need to do as well. Now, I'm going to go into this into a bit more detail. I have shared with many of you on this channel how critically important it is for you to be able to develop your own decision-making tree, your own decision-making algorithm. There needs to be some type of a system in place for you to think in general. Regardless of what it is, there has to be some way that you make decisions. Now, if you need some support with this and you need help trying to fine tune this, then you're absolutely welcome to reach out to me at executivecommunication.org. But we're going to dive into this a bit. So initially, as I mentioned, we have to have a way for you to be able to make decisions. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. I'm going to share with you some things that will help you develop that competitive edge over everybody else. I want to say hello and welcome to those of you watching the live today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And how do you feel about how you think right now? Do you think pretty sharply, or do you feel like you could probably improve a little bit? Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. All right, I want to say hello to Vortex Levi. Hello, welcome, welcome. Vortex Levi says, what's happening? All right, we are talking about how you can think sharper as a leader so that you develop a competitive edge over everybody else. Now, if this sounds of interest to you, you definitely want to watch this video until the end. This is going to be a really good video. And if you really like this information, feel free to subscribe to the channel. This is the best and the only channel on YouTube that talks about high stakes, high pressure situations for leaders in a live format to help you be able to be that person that stands out from everybody else. As I mentioned, there's the internal aspect of thinking sharper, and then there's the external aspect of thinking sharper. I do want to give a special shout out to Kat 23rd because she mentioned this last week, and this was such a good topic that I really want to dive into it a bit more today, specifically. Okay, let me see. Vortex Levi says, I'm from Central America, and I think negative most of the time. Well, Vortex Levi, this would be a fantastic place for you to spend some time. We are a very big group of positive thinkers, and there are negative things that happen, but if you're at the point where you want to change your mindset and think in a more positive way, I welcome you to subscribe to the channel. I'm very, very hopeful that you'll learn some things that will help you to think about things a little bit differently. Jaden Pretzi, hello, welcome, welcome, hope you're doing well. So let's go into it. when I'm in a situation that has helped me to be this, and Vortex Levi says, I sub. Well, welcome, friend. You'll learn a lot here. And I'm glad that you're here. You have any questions about anything specifically as it relates to communicating in those complex situations and just being more positive, you're welcome to contact me and put it in any of the videos. I will respond to your comments directly. As I mentioned, there's the internal part of making the decision and the external part of making the decision. I'm going to walk you through what I do to make decisions to think sharper. One of the first things that I like to do specifically is to make sure that I'm at a place where I am truly regulating myself first. Okay, in order for me to make some sharp decisions pretty quickly, if my mind is all over the place and I'm not focused, it will make it very, very, very hard for me to make a very, very quick and very sharp decision. So my first strategy for you is to think about your mental state. If you're frustrated, if you're tired, if you're feeling a bit negative, it can impede or prevent you from being able to think a lot sharper than you normally would. If you need some support with that, I have a lot of videos here on this channel that talk about managing your emotions under pressure. Take a look at some of the playlists that I have that talk about either executive presence mastery, high stakes communication fundamentals, or handling pushback and setting boundaries. Any of those will help you. Let me go into the chat really quickly and then we'll talk about another aspect of what I do specifically to be able to think a bit sharper. All right, let me go back to the chat. We have Chiz Moso. Hello, hope you're doing well today. Vortex Levi says, okay, you want an animal, okay. And we have Sasha Arts says, hi, I'm Sarah. Hello, Sarah, hope you're doing well today. And we have Shy, I want to say Shy Halud 7316 says your hair is on point. Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Now, we talked a bit about having the right mindset. If you want to think sharper, it starts here, okay? It starts here in your mind, making sure your mind is in a good place where you are managing your emotions under pressure. You're controlling what's going on in your mind. Now, the second strategy that I make when I'm trying to make decisions and think sharper, remember, I'm getting my emotions in check, making sure I'm in the right place, is to make sure that I gather as much data as possible. So let me share with you a little bit in terms of what I do gathering data. Now, I've talked about this a lot on the channel, but I know there's many of you that are new, and I want to make sure you understand a couple things that you can take home from this video today that can help you start to think a bit sharper. When you're in those situations, in order for you to think, we have to have something to process. Meaning that if you have a difficult conversation, maybe you have a presentation you're having to do, or maybe you have a conflict that just came out of nowhere, you are going to struggle making the decisions that you need to if you do not have the right data first. How many of you have been in a situation where you've been caught off guard, didn't know what was going on, and you had to make a decision like that, like very fast? Let me know in the comments below if that's ever happened to you. I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure you've experienced that too. Well, in order to make a decision and think sharper, you have to have data. You have to have what's going on. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have numbers, but you can. Statistics are always helpful. But it means that there has to be some information you're getting. What's really going on? What is the problem? What's the solution? And is there any other information that I need first before I can make an informed decision? Most of the time, leaders struggle with this because they are at a point where there's a crisis, there's a fire, as we say, and you have to deal with it really fast. And what happens is we make decisions based off of where we are in the present moment. Sometimes we don't think ahead, and sometimes we don't consider what other conversations we need to have or what other discussions need to have in order to make that decision. Now, let me know if you've ever experienced that before, but I'll tell you that this happens to leaders regardless of how new they are and how seasoned they are. I have seen this over the past 20 years happen way too often. Leaders would just get caught up and they just make the decision based on how they feel or how they feel about the person or how they feel about the situation or the circumstances. And they just make a very quick decision, making it look like it's a sharp decision or sharp thought, but in actuality, it hasn't been strategically thought through, which is the reason why this is so incredibly important to make sure you gather as much data as you need. Sometimes that means you can't make the decision you want to make right then. Now, I know a lot of you may be in a situation where you're thinking, I need to make this decision right now, immediately, about this situation, this purpose, this whatever's going on. But I want to encourage you that sometimes you can't make a decision immediately. And as a leader, as you're elevating, regardless of your role, you have to become comfortable with that. Does that mean you wait forever to make a decision? No, you need to make a decision pretty quickly, but make the best decision. It will always come across as you being a sharp thinker. Now, we talked about making the decision, gathering data. You need to gather data. Now, let me go into this a bit deeper for you today. What do I mean by gathering data? I mentioned to you about what's going on, what's the problem, what's the solution, what can I do, what other information do I need to make a decision? But there's another part of gathering data that is something that I talk about on my channel all the time. And that is being able to listen. Now, you may be thinking, what does thinking sharply have to do with listening? And how is this going to help me develop a competitive edge? Tell me, please. Well, let me explain. When you are at a place where you're trying to think sharply, remember, initially, you have to get your mindset right. Okay, you need to have a clear mind so you can process information. But listening, believe it or not, is probably one of the most important aspects of thinking sharper. Because in order for you to be able to truly make that quick, sharp, strategic decision, you have to really know what's going on. Meaning you have to listen to what is being said. Now, listening is something that encompasses a lot. And a couple of things that I use specifically to help me make sharp decisions as it relates to listening is to listen to what's actually being said with an unbiased view. Being as objective as possible, even if it's a conversation or someone that you particularly do not care for, being able to still be objective about it and taking the emotions out will help you to be able to make those very sharp decisions, because you're going based off of what's actually being said and what truly is the problem, not the problem that you think is in your mind or you are assuming. Another part of being able to listen, I want to go into a different direction that relates to observing. If you take some time to observe the person, the individual that is speaking to you, it will tell you a lot about what is going on and what they are thinking. Now, reading people is an expertise that I have, that I share with my clients in one-on-one and group settings. If you want to learn how to read people and really start to set yourself apart, I guarantee you're going to learn a lot of information by working with me. Feel free to contact me at exciteexcellence.org and sign up for an executive strategy session so we can set up a game plan just for you. But if you're able to read people and observe, all of this information starts to become data. As I mentioned, not only are we getting just what's going on, what's the problem, but we're also gathering information about the person's tone of voice. What are they saying? How are they saying it? When are they saying it? And then we're also paying very close attention to their facial expressions to start to read people. Now, I'm not going to go into this in a lot of detail here for this video specifically, but there are a lot of videos here on my channel that talk about reading people and how critically important, if you can learn how to read people, you will start mastering those very high stakes, high pressure conversations if you simply observe and not just look at the person. But all of this is data. All of this is data, and it comes together so that you can decide what is the best course of action. Now, as I mentioned, when we start thinking about thinking sharper, those individuals, when they think sharp, it just means that they are able to be decisive, they're confident in what they're saying, and they're able to articulate it in the right way. Which goes to my next strategy. For me, once I get the information, so I'm gathering data, I'm gathering a lot of data, I'm paying attention to what's being said, what's not being said. For me specifically, I make my decisions after I'm gathering data. I've gotten my mind in the right place, I'm gathering data, I'm listening very intently. Then I have to determine very quickly where this is going. Is it in a positive direction? Is it in a negative direction? Or is it somewhere in between? I talk about this a lot on the channel. That's personally what I do to make decisions. And depending on what the decision is or what the context of the situation is, I will respond positive. I don't respond negatively, but I'll respond in a more direct way. And if it's something where I'm in between or I'm a little unsure, I will always respond in a more direct way. That's just in my very humble opinion. I know we go into this in a lot of detail on this channel, which is why this is the best channel on YouTube to help you be able to communicate at that very, very, very exceptional level as a leader. Now, once I gather my data, I've determined this is a good situation, this is maybe not the best situation, or this is about to get very catastrophic, then I have to make a decision really quick. I have to think very, very sharply to say, oh, this is what we need to do. If there's additional information that I need, then I'll let the person know. I need to gather some additional data from this person, from this individual, or I need to do a bit of a review. Give me just a few moments. This is what I believe will be the best solution so far. Now, that's how you start to think sharply. It doesn't always mean that it's just what you say. It's how you process information also. Now, what happens a lot of times as leaders is that when we're given information, we just get into leadership overload. How many of you have ever been in a situation where you feel like you just were completely just done? It was too much coming at you too fast. How many of you have been in that situation? This is the reason why a lot of times people will just completely do what? Shut down. When the pressure is on, the stakes are high, people lose it and they will pause, they will freeze, they will stop thinking, all of it just goes away because they have not developed a way for them to make decisions. Now, I did miss one critical part about making decisions and thinking more sharper. Let me go into that. When you are gathering your data and your mind's in the right place, there's one part of it that I did not mention to you, but I want to mention it to you very quickly. At the very beginning, your mind is in the right place. You're thinking, okay, this is what is going on. This is the situation. You have to immediately determine a couple of things. Is this a fire, meaning that I need to deal with this immediately right now? Is this a situation that I can worry about, but I probably need to address it today, but maybe not right this moment or maybe this week? Or is this something that I can potentially deal with in a month or in 2 months? Making that decision pretty quickly helps to start making that decision-making process, that decision-making algorithm, that decision-making tree, whatever it is you want to call it, in your mind so that you are starting to develop a system that helps you to make decisions. You always have to know, is this urgent? If it's not urgent, then when do you need to solve it by? And you may be saying, well, I don't know. I'm in a situation where it might be urgent, it may not be urgent. I'm simply not sure. If you are not sure, one of the questions I ask to myself, and I share with my clients, is if you do not handle or address this issue today, is it going to cause you problems, issues, a situation, some catastrophe within the next couple of hours or within the next day or within the next month? If it is, then guess what? That's urgent. You need to deal with it right now. If it deals with a ethical situation or there's a safety issue or risk issue, those are always going to be at the very, very top of the list of the urgent category that you need to address and deal with immediately. Now, I have shared with you a few of the strategies that I personally do to think sharper, that I walk my clients through when they are struggling with how they want to process information in terms of what exactly it is they want to be able to do and etc. I've just shared with you a few things. Now, if you want to learn a lot more and get some more customized support directly to you for your specific situation, that's where we work together. There's only but so much that I can share with you here live on YouTube in front of the World Wide Web, but there's a lot that we can do individually together. Sometimes you may have a certain situation a certain circumstance or something that happened in the past, and you just need to figure out, well, how can I start thinking through these things? Maybe you're the person that says, I tend to shut down. Maybe you're a woman in leadership and you found yourself in a situation where you feel like, I can't process all this information at much. I'm not giving medical advice, but there are certain strategies that you can implement that can help you to start making decisions in a more systematic, more concise way that takes the guesswork out of it to make it not as hard. Now, once again, I appreciate Cat 23rd for this topic, because this was actually a very, very good topic, because a lot of times people wonder, how can I think sharply? How can I really think on my feet? Well, I'm sharing with you many strategies that will help you to do that. And then, of course, at the very end of all this thought process that we've determined, we've gotten ourselves together in terms of how we are processing pressure and processing challenges. We're gathering data. We're learning as much as we can. We're listening, we're observing, and all the things we discussed. Then it comes down to, what do you say? Now that is going to be another video for sure. But being able to articulate yourself when you are thinking under pressure and showcasing that you are thinking in a very sharp way comes down to exactly what do you say, how do you say it, when do you say it. I cannot let you all go if I don't give you at least something to work with. I appreciate you all so much. So I do want to at least tell you at least something to consider when you have made that very sharp, very decisive decision. How do you communicate it? Now, one of the things that you can do when you have gathered this data is to make sure the people that need to know. And then when you are speaking, speak from the place of the data that you have gathered. Be as objective as you can be. I don't want you to say, I feel like this is the right decision. I feel like that's the right decision. Anytime you say, I feel that, and etc., it basically tells the person you're not confident in what you're saying. And that is something that we are definitely not going to allow here on this channel. That's why you subscribe to the channel, so that you don't appear that way. But I would articulate my thoughts, my decisiveness in this way. And as I mentioned, I can't go into a ton of detail due to time, but I want to at least give you something to work with. Speak from what you have learned. For example, I have spoken with this person. I have gathered data from this source. I have reviewed this metric, this KPI. I have analyzed this piece of legislation. I have reviewed this data, and based off of the findings that I have seen so far, what I have collected, I recommend us to move forward and do this, whatever this is. Articulating it, at least starting off in that way, will automatically showcase you as someone that can speak concisely and that is a pretty sharp thinker. Now, let me know in the comments below which of the strategies that I shared with you was your favorite. Which one really stood out to you that may be an area you want to improve upon, or an area that you are already very, very, very good at, and you want to showcase it to everybody else? Let me know in the comments below. If you are new to my channel, I go live here on YouTube at least 7 to 8 times a week, and I'm here to support you on your journey. My mission here is to build the world's largest high-stakes, high-pressure communication content library for leaders on planet Earth. And the only way that I'm able to do that is by you being present on the channel, giving me great content, giving me some really great ideas for things for us to discuss that can help the entire world be able to communicate confidently and concisely under pressure. I specialize in working with women that are in leadership roles as it relates to my executive coaching and consultation business that I have. However, much of the information that I share is universal. Regardless of if you are a man in leadership, a woman in leadership, you will be at a point where you will learn a lot of fantastic information that will help you be able to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure, regardless of what gender you are in. I'm here to help leaders, and that's really my mission on this earth. Okay, we have Eldridge. Hello, how you doing today? Good to see you. Eldridge says, do you remember me from last time? High five, friend. Yes, I do. How you doing today? Good to see you. We're wrapping up the live. We just talked about how to think sharper. I believe it'll be one, Eldridge, that you definitely want to take a look at for sure. We talked about I'll give you an overview real quick because you came back to the channel, so I appreciate you being there. If you're trying to think more sharper and trying to develop that competitive edge against everybody else as a leader, I'm gonna go through these really fast for you, friend. Make sure your mind is in the right place. So meaning that anything you are dealing with, you have to find out a way for you to be able to manage pressure. How do you make decisions? There has to be some type of system, some type of format, some type of process for you to make decisions under pressure very quickly. So having your mind in the right mindset, being positive, being optimistic, being a realist in terms of what's going on. Gather as much data as you can because it will help you to make a more informed decision. Therefore, when you're having that conversation and you want to appear as someone that thinks pretty sharply, you have been that person that has done proper vetting, found out information, whatever it is to make a decision. That's very important. We talked a little bit about how you gather data, not only finding out what's the problem, what's the solution, but also being able to go to the person that you need to speak with, maybe contact the authority you need to reach out to give you more data, listen to someone's tone of voice, read them as I talk about a lot on this channel. Gathering all that information and listening is so critically important so that you can respond in a highly objective way instead of a biased way by listening intently to what's actually being said, not our own internal biases that sometimes we have against people in situations that we don't necessarily care for. We also talked about being at a place where you can put everything together and make those decisions, come across as a person that can articulate that, and we highlighted that as well. So that's just a very brief overview, very quickly to share with you what we discussed. I do want you all to be those leaders that stand out from everybody else. I know the fact that you have subscribed to this channel or the fact that you're even watching this content, you're already up there. You just need some support to help you get way up there. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to share with you my over 20 years worth of experience being in very friendly, very contentious situations as a senior leader to help you learn from the mistakes I've made, learn from my successes, learn from the times I've been in front of a large group of people. I've been on the news. I've interacted with congressional leaders. Learn from as much as you can from me because I'm really here to help you all stand out from everybody else. Okay, Eldred says, I'm good, I miss you, and hi. Okay, fantastic, awesome. Let me know what other topics you all want to learn about. I am doing something a bit different on the channel, and I'm noticing that I believe that everyone's starting to see it. I have been trying to place out the topics for this upcoming, for the week, for the lives in advance. Now, I will say tomorrow night I do have a emergency with a client that I have to work with specifically, and I may be a little bit later tomorrow, so I'll let you all know if it ends up being a little bit of a later live. But if it is, it's fine. I still will make sure I will be present for you all and to give you any insight that I can around the topic. But if you have anything you're dealing with, any challenges you're dealing with, then just put them in the comments on any one of the videos. I will do a video just for you and give you a shout out on it specifically to help you navigate any challenges that you're facing.